Hello, and welcome to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin. Thank you so much for joining us today, yet again, for the safety of all. So masks are back. Vaccinations are right around the corner. They're already, as we talked about last show, in some colleges, and they're now being pushed in some cities. You have to understand where this is coming from. Most of you do, but the one thing you have to understand is the saying for the safety of all, because there's clearly studies out that we're going to talk about in this show that clearly say that masks don't work, and this small uptick in COVID and this new variant is really not worth all the hype that obviously the Democrats and the blue, what would you call them? The blue dogs? They're definitely dogs, but maybe they're blue. Who knows? I think they're a little further blue. In any event, for the safety of all is the rationale. If you remember going back to 2020, that was the rationale for we needed to mask up because for the safety of all. But the safety of all is a very slippery slope because where does it end and who defines it, right? Certainly there is no constitution or legal grounds to require people to wear masks. And there's some people, I would be one of them, who think that masks have now become more of a religious garb than anything else. But for the safety of all, you should do this. And that slippery slope then extended to vaccinations, even though the vaccinations were untested, untried, and rushed to market. And we now see the results. And there are now studies, clinical studies, scientific studies, so we should trust the science, remember, that the vaccines don't really work. And even if you were vaccinated with the old vaccines, you now need the new vaccines. From there, where does it end? Because after, for the safety of all, they now have red flag gun laws. Right? You can't own a gun because you're not safe, right? We deem you to be dangerous. So we're protecting the community for the safety of all. I still remember being in a supermarket and I didn't have a mask on and it was required, but I'm one of those transgressors. And I was reprimanded by someone, you should wear a mask for the safety of all. I basically told them to, kiss my what, but we went from there. But understand where this goes because from safety of all, then you go to climate change. You can't eat meat for the safety of all. You can't use electricity for the safety of all. You can't use fossil fuels. There's the problem. So the next time you hear someone say for the safety of all, and even if it's unspoken, that's the rationale. Understand the canard. Understand what they're doing to you. We'll talk about it more in the show today, but joining us right now in the next episode after we come back from break is Jay the Republican, with his Throwup Thursday rant. You're not going to want to miss that one. Stay tuned, folks. We will be right back.
The new Civil War will help start a conversation about how to push back. Harmeet Dhillon, civil rights lawyer. As a lawyer who defends the victims of progressivism every day, I have looked into the eyes of the thought police. The new Civil War provides the wake-up call America needs and serves as a self-defense manual for patriotic Americans. Get your copy of The New Civil War today.
Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I am Robert Chernin with my lovely co-host,
Erica Reddick.
And joining us, one of the leading Republicans, Jay the Republican, who is a thought leader in the Republican Party. And Jay, welcome back to Of the People. And what are your thoughts this Thursday?
Jay.
It's a pleasure to be back with both of you. I mean, this is Throwup Thursday, so I have a couple of things that have
like
kind of made me sick this week.
It's like retching.
Well, we'll see if that makes you guys throw up as well.
All right, I got my bucket
throwing up
ready.
some facts that are really bothering me. All right. They're talking about COVID again. And one of the things they're talking about are masks. And this has been an administration that has been ranting and raving about masks for quite some time. You're seeing it in New York City where they're requiring it. Some businesses now are requiring people to wear masks. Some districts in California are having their school districts wear masks. The only real mask that's going on in this country is this made-up COVID mask mandate that's coming to control us and to control what we're doing. What they're really doing is they're masking the problems that this administration has caused. They're masking the border where people are coming across the border in record numbers. They aren't being tested. They aren't being process. They're just coming in. They're masking that. They're masking the waste of money that we're spending in the Ukraine that they can't find anymore. So they're also talking about masking any information that's coming out of China and what they're doing to infiltrate the U.S. They're causing everything to be masked. But the biggest thing that really bothers me the most is that they're removing the mask from Lady Justice. The mask that once held over her eyes saying, law is blind, that we're looking the other way. We don't care who it is. You follow the law. They have two sets of rules. They're taking our ex-President Trump and his advisors and his staff, and they're forcing Lady Justice to remove her mask and say, if you're a Republican, you're bad. But if you're a Democrat, we're going to look the other way. I'm sick and tired of it. We need to leave the mask over the eyes of Lady Justice, and we need to leave the mask off our face going forward, because all they're doing is masking all their ills and all their ill-forgotten gains that this administration has done over the last 2 years. It's time to say no more masks. Be transparent about all the things you're doing wrong, and don't put masks on our kids or on us anywhere in this country. That's my rant.
Amen,
that's my throw up
Jay.
on Thursday.
That's a lot. So my question for you, just before we dive into this, is I thought it was Lady Justice was blindfolded. It's a mask or is it a blindfold?
Same.
It's the same thing. What they're doing is they're putting a mask over. They're taking the mask or the blindfold off her eyes because they want justice to be done for a political gain.
Well, and isn't that the definition of a banana republic? Isn't that what they say when they talk about, when over the years, right, throughout history, as we've seen empires fall, countries fall, and they're called banana republics, isn't it because of that misalignment of justice, that there's, one kind of set of rules for thee and not for me?
You're absolutely right. And what makes this country great is that we've always had the rule of law, that justice was blind, that we allowed everyone to be judged on the merit of their cases rather than on any political agenda. If you look at the world, there's been a lot of democracies. There's been a lot of great nations that had great constitutions, and they have free and fair elections. But what they don't have is the blindness of the rule of law. And that's what makes this country great. When we violate that, we're really risking what this nation is made of and what it's for and how it protects the people of this country.
Jay, so I would say that's what separates America from any other country was the rule of law. Because when you think about it, beyond being a democracy, and the truth is we're not really a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, right? But if you want to radically change society, which is really, I think, what you're talking about, you're giving us, sort of this, they're going after the masking of truth and transparency and obviously unmasking Lady Justice so that she sees, I would argue, through the eye of racial, identity. We're doing identity justice. They talk about identity politics. It's really identity justice. Depending on your identity, depends on the level of justice you're now going to get in Biden's America. But if you want to radically transform society, doesn't it make sense to go after the laws? Because they're the last line of defense in a civilized society, and that would also explain why they go after those people who enforce the laws, i.e. law enforcement.
You're absolutely right. And the politicizing of the Department of Justice makes it a department of injustice. What they've done is they've mobilized FBI, other parts of the Department of Justice in a way that they look at who it is that they want to find guilty before they find a crime. So they're actually creating a crime to suit
it's
who they want
what
to
is
find
it?
guilty rather than
A problem a solution in search of
it's
a
pre-crime.
problem or whatever.
Wait a minute. It's a pre-crime. This is Minority Report. It's a pre-crime. We know you're going to commit a crime, so we're coming after you now, even though you didn't do anything. So
exactly, no different than thought crimes. I know what you're thinking, so you're guilty of something. Well, everybody's guilty of something. We can create guilt, but what we can't do is create justice. Justice is fair, and it's reasonable, and it needs to be enforced, and it needs to be recognized. And this Department of Justice is no longer doing that. And what they're doing is they're using it as political pawns And what's even worse is that they're using it to hide the malfeasance of the guilty within this.
Of course. So let me ask you a question. You are a Republican thought leader, and the truth is you are. I respect that, and I know you are. Why aren't the Republicans more active on this front? Because one of the perceptions that we have, and Eric and I have talked about it a lot, is that there's not even left and right anymore. There's top versus bottom. If you're on the top, provided you're not Trump, right, or affiliated with Trump, if you're on the top, you have a certain amount of immunity, a la Hillary Clinton, a la Barack Obama, a la Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, from the law. If you're on the bottom or in the middle from the bottom, or the middle to the bottom, you don't. So why aren't the Republicans more active in trying to reestablish this blind justice rule of law? Because they're clearly not.
Question.
Well, I have a real issue with the comments that the Republicans, I hear all the time people will say, well, I don't like the Republicans in Washington. And I'll say to them, I don't understand who you're talking about. Are you talking about Jim Jordan, the head of the Freedom Caucus, or are we talking about Mitt Romney, who's a liberal Republican that's going out there? One of the big issues is that there's no uniformity within the Republican Party nationally. So what we've got is several different groups playing against each other. So really we don't have a single Republican Party. What we really have are several Republican parties. And they're very worried about where they are positioning going forward. And unfortunately, whether it's the Democrats or Republicans, so much of this is driven by money and donors who are suggesting solutions to things that might not work. And we had a hard time. You look at what happened to Speaker McCarthy when he ran. We are a divided party. So really within the Republican Party, you're looking at about 5 factions that are all going in different directions. So there's no unity of command. There's no one at the top that's able to say, look, we're going to get it done. This is how we're going to do it. We had that when Trump was president, even though there were fractures going on when that was happening, and it's gotten even worse since then. So to do a blanket statement that the Republicans aren't doing anything is a little unfair to the majority of Republicans who are doing something. And we're seeing right now about a third of the Republicans are active, a third are in the middle, and a third don't want anything.
Oh, sorry, Robert.
No, that's okay.
I may be asking you to speculate here, but I am curious, given your insider position, where are people at with campaign finance reform? Because to me, a lot of this feels like if our elected officials were not so beholden to having to raise a bunch of money, depend on corporate welfare, if you will, and dependent on the opinions of corporations rather than their constituents, essentially. Like, is there an appetite for campaign finance reform? Have you heard anyone other than folks like me talking about it?
Folks like you? You mean people who wear orange?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, at least it's not a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
But if you keep speaking out, you never know, Erica, whether you'll be wearing.
Wait a minute. If thoughts are criminalized, I'd be in jail a long time ago. And
my tough mug.
And I look good in orange.
I got to practice my tough mug shot like Donald Trump. How's this, guys?
Yes. Well, your question about taking money out of politics, I think the Citizens United verdict years ago really hurt our elections in this country because, there's so much dark money that's going on because of that and so many super PACs and all of that. But as far as any appetite to change, I think the appetite for change is right up there with term limits. Why would anyone who's in a position of power want to give that up and change what's going on already? So the only ones that will do that are the ones who want to make change going forward and change what's going on in Washington. And I think there's an old senator or congressman who ran on term limits, and after 20 years, someone said to him, you wanted term limits, but you're still there. Well, who's going to fight for term limits if I have term limits? So that when you hear voices, when you hear the voices out there saying we need to do something about campaign finance reform, and they're using it to raise money, I think you're seeing that there's
my argument is very simple. Trying to wean a politician off public money or funds is like trying to wean a drug addict off of crack cocaine. Never going to happen from the inside out. Never, never, never. The concept of a citizen politician or citizen legislator, other than in the great state of New Hampshire, as far as I know, is dead. So not happening. In any event, Jay, we thank you for joining us for Throw Up Thursdays. You didn't hear our monologue, and we didn't talk about it ahead of time, but we were talking about the same thing, so we're right with you.
One mind.
Keep driving that change in D.C. as one of the thought leaders in the Republican Party, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of upper cognitive thought going on there right now.
Thank you for doing some second and third order evaluations of consequences. We need it.
I appreciate what the two of you are doing. I think the more voices we have out there, the more people will listen, the more people will be involved.
Amen.
And make some
and it has to come from the outside in.
Thank you.
Folks, you've been listening to Of the People with Robert Chernin and Erica Reddick, and our special guest, Jay the Republican. We'll be right back after break. Stay tuned. Tired of seeing your rights stripped away by the politicians in Washington? Do you feel like you're a red dot, alone in a sea of blue? Get connected. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is fighting back to restore America. Join us in our fight for American exceptionalism and start connecting to all the other red dots across the country. Go to acekfund.org to learn more. That's ACEKFUND.org. Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin with
Erica Reddick.
And we are back. That was Jay the Republican with a lot to digest about masking and unmasking. But Erica, here's the thing. Really, he's speaking to a larger issue, which is the lack of transparency and the political agenda that's really driving everything Biden, right? Let's call it Biden's America. Because the whole masking thing, to me, there's a direct line to, because the information doesn't support masking. The information doesn't support vaccines. The information certainly doesn't support rushing vaccines to market. But there was also a new letter released by 1,600 or so scientists, including a few Nobel Prize winners, two in particular, who basically said that climate change is a hoax.
What?
Right? Absolutely. I can pull up the article if you need me to. But again, it plays off of what Jay the Republican said about the lack of transparency in the political agenda, whether they're driving masks or other things, because all of this really comes down to either ESG or climate change. Right? Forget about the jets that are flying around, the climate justice, right? But think about it this way, right? If climate change is a hoax, then it's not accepted science, is it? Right?
Yep, correct.
Because of the disinformation. Because don't forget, the people who are telling you are accepted science back, 300, 400, 500 years ago, these were the same people who were telling you was accepted science that the earth was flat.
That's true. Yes.
Right. So again, the terms accepted science to me, again, is an oxymoron. It's a jumbo shrimp. And you can call them morons too, but it's really an oxymoron, right? It's a jumbo shrimp. So doesn't all this really go back to the whole issue of climate change? Because based on the science, they're talking about that we have to do this to save the earth. You have to do this to save humanity. You have to do this to save your health. Do you really think the government's interested in saving your health or saving themselves?
That's one of the things that's always confused me about all of these conversations is the same people who will say, oh, we need to get rid of, carbon-based fuels and we need to, climate change and blah, 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 are the same people that are saying that the earth is already overpopulated. So, and then they're saying, oh, we need to mask and do all this stuff to save everybody. So either the earth is overpopulated and we need less people, or we need to save
so we should let
everybody.
them die.
I mean,
right.
I don't want to be...
Right. That's good.
Like,
that's
I
good.
don't want to be... I don't...
Wait a minute. So if the earth is overpopulated, then What the hell do they care? Let us all die if we want to make our own choice, and we will depopulate the earth that way for them. And then there's no climate crisis.
Just saying.
That's really smart.
Call
I never
me
thought of
crazy,
that.
But it's
You're crazy.
I mean, it's
You
true
said call you
though.
crazy.
I am a woman, so there's going to be a little bit of crazy in there. But what is the?
Is that a sexist comment?
Remember, I'm
so
a
only
misogynist.
only women are crazy.
I'm a massage. No, men are crazy too. We're all crazy. We're all a little bit crazy.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We
Thank you for
are
that.
a little bit extra crazy.
So let's go back to this whole climate change thing. So his name is Dr. John Clauser. He's the winner of the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics. And they have this organization. It's called the Global Climate Intelligence Group. 1,609 scientists have signed a declaration stating, quote, there is no climate emergency, and they, quote, strongly oppose the harmful and unrealistic net zero carbon 2 policy being pushed across the globe. And he goes on to say, one last thing, because you know how I like reading stuff, right? He goes on, Clauser goes on to say, misguided climate science has metastasized into massive shock journalistic pseudoscience. In turn, the pseudoscience has become a scapegoat for a wide variety of other unrelated ills. It has been promoted and extended by similarly misguided business marketing agents, politicians, journalists, government agencies, and environmentalists.
Shocker. Here's my real question. So, Robert, back in the day, okay? In
my
your
day?
day,
You're talking about old times.
When we still rode horse and buggy. No, seriously though.
I'm not. And my rear end is still sore. Rolling. God, is swollen.
Don't you remember, when was it we were going to reach peak oil? And wasn't, remember that peak oil? It was like, oh, we're going to run out of oil. And wasn't that supposed to happen in the 90s? And then...
Well, in the 70s, so I lived through the gas rationing.
Okay.
Right? During the Carter years, where if you were driving, you could only, if your license plate ended with an odd number, you could only buy every other day, and then even the other day. And there was this gas crisis, and people carry out trends ad infinitum. That's the problem, right? Because you were hearing things in the 70s. Well, at this rate, gasoline will cost $4,322 a gallon by the year 2022. By the way, under Biden's America, they're not far wrong, folks. I mean, look at what gas costs you now versus during the Trump years.
It's only
How's that working for you?
3.8 million, whatever.
Right. So we live through all of that.
Because that's what
I got a better question. What? I got a better question. Name for me one climate crisis or one climate event that has been predicted that has come to pass.
That's
Name
what I'm
one.
saying. So I feel like back then in the 70s, my understanding is there was going to be a new ice age was the thing, right? And then it was global warming. And then we had the hole in the ozone layer, which has now apparently closed. There are ice caps refreezing. There's now a resurgence in polar bears, which were supposedly going to go extinct.
None of it's happened, has it?
None.
You know what this is? When you were growing up, when you were growing up was way after I was growing up. But when you were growing up, did you ever read any Mother Goose, or did your mother, who I know is there with you, read any Mother Goose to you?
Probably.
Okay, so you know the one, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Well, the sky's been falling, and it continues to be falling. There's nothing new here.
Literally.
Right? But this is accepted science. Trust the science. Remember that? We went on that rant some shows ago. Well, and I want to say it again. Accepted science are the same. The people pushing it are the same people who are pushing wokeism, who are pushing. I mean, these are the same people who were telling you once upon a time the Earth was flat and gravity didn't exist until Sir Isaac Newton got hit over the head with an apple.
Was a planet. Pluto was first. So Pluto was a.
Wait a minute. I thought Pluto was a dog in Disney.
Pluto's also a dog in Disney. Rough. Okay, but that rock in the sky has gone from being a planet to not being a planet. I think like 3 or 4 times in the last decade.
What is it now?
I don't know what it is now, but like
wait. Is Uranus still Uranus?
Uranus is always Uranus, and the problem is that everybody's got one.
And there's still rings around it? There
always is.
Okay, so science hasn't redeclared.
Well, who knows?
That. I'm just checking,
What? Did you Google it? We may need to Google it. We may not. It may not be anymore. It may be that we need to go settle it and get some consensus with some. Okay. Science was always a methodology, and I think that word has, like many other words in the vocabulary of our society, has been changed to mean something different than what it meant. Science is a process. Of course, they
have redefined racism. They have redefined, religion. They've redefined everything frankly, for its opposite. Yeah. But I want to go back to the science again, right? Because the other thing is, so let's talk about COVID, right? And masks, right? There was a study out of Cochrane, right? And the Cochrane, it's a UK-based organization called Cochrane. They are the gold standard of evidence-based medicine, who basically came out and said that masks make, quote, little to no difference. And by the way, this is a 17-year study. So, they're going to rush to market. Right. So they're going to rush to market COVID vaccines, which, during the days of the rubella or TB, they tested this stuff, right? Now they're not testing it because, and by the way, folks, if you haven't seen it, so Russell Brand is on Bill Maher, and he goes through all the metrics of who's making billions off of these vaccines and the pharmaceuticals and how many billionaires have been made. It's worth watching. Because follow the money, which is what we always say. When you look at, so a gold standard on a 17-year study that basically says that masks don't work. And you know what they're doing? They're redacting the report to block out certain areas. And then senior management at Cochrane even is trying to downplay it because they're getting a rash of crap. Oh, my God. Right? So here you go. The Cochrane Systematic Review, which has evaluated masking first against influenza and then COVID since 2006.
Oh, wow.
Erica,
so this is like...
posed a problem for federal government's ongoing pro-mask guidance, but so does an increasing body of research that questions whether sustained mask use is even benign.
Wow. Okay, so this...
for the safety of all,
they've been studying this since before COVID was a thing. Because I've always seen a video of places in Asia, like, South Korea or China or, places like that where people are wearing masks. And I was always like, that's weird. I think that's a strange thing. And I remember asking about it. And someone had said, oh, it's because, to prevent people from being sick or whatever. And that always seemed sort of strange to me. But I was like, well, maybe they know something that we don't. So it sounds like...
No, they're from societies that are fear-based, that have totalitarian governments. South Korean government is not totalitarian, but if you understand anything about Asian culture, so our culture is horizontal. Basically, most of the people you meet are within your social class. Yeah. Right? And there's that whole equality thing, right? Asian societies, by their nature, by definition, are not horizontal, they're vertical. Everyone you meet is either your superior or inferior. And I don't mean that in a moral sense, just sort of in the way their society is structured. As epitomized, as epitomized by Japanese society, which, folks, go read Chrysanthemum and the Sword. Ruth Benedict, 1946, leading anthropologist of her day, commissioned the definitive study of it, right? It's still relevant today. So... there, they follow the leader more. They get their instructions from the top down. And let's be clear. I don't have an issue if you want to wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask because you need this religious garb, go for it. What I have an issue with is the peer pressure or social pressure or societal pressure under the aegis of, for the safety of all, you need to do this.
And then we have studies that actually show that it's not only not safe for all, but actually harmful and detrimental.
And they're suppressing it.
Wow.
So that whole thing with Jay the Republican about, they're masking things. They're masking critical thinking. They're masking information. They're masking that our country's being invaded. They're masking that politicians actually give a damn about making a change. And I respect no end Jay the Republican, but he says there are 5 factions. Next time we have him on, I want to know what those 5 factions are, because I only see that there are 2. And I would, although I do agree with the 2/3, 1/3, I think about a third of let's call them Republican, or let's call them non-democratic politicians want to bring change from the inside out. And 2/3 are either drinking from the teat of power or money, the nipple of power or money, that DC, the spigot, if you will. And they have no incentive to change anything. And the question is, how do you drive change? Through a political system from the inside, from the outside in, without armed conflict. Can it be done? What do you think?
I hope so. If the American people just wake up and remember that their vote actually counts, that their vote actually matters, then we don't have to take up arms. But what was it? I mean, what was it? A 4% tax on tea, and we started a whole war over it. We are not the same America that we were back then.
That was the tea we were getting from China through Britain, right? It was the old Silk Road, not the new one.
Yeah, that's what I tell people who talk like that. I'm like, yo, man, all you got to do is vote. All you got to do is pay attention, and then we don't have to. Then we don't have to talk about violence. But the more people don't want to participate,
and for the record, we are not proposing violence here, but you have to question whether or not change can be driven without it. And that's a quote unquote critical thinking process, and is worth talking about. Right. It's certainly, because what's our moniker? We're mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful.
Well, mostly peaceful.
It's a fiery peaceful show.
Right. There's a reason, la guillotine, right? I mean, sorry, wrong continent, but same concept. So, and maybe it will take something like storming the Bastille. But at the end of the day, things are fighting back. So there's a professor at the University of Southern Maine who was fired because she questioned. So the university, at the height of COVID, the University of Southern Maine imposed a vaccination and mask requirement, and she basically questioned, she said, here's the science I have that doesn't support that, and she was tenured. Tell me, let me see where your science is. So they fired her. She sues, and now the First Circuit, is it the First or the Fourth Circuit? Let me see about this. I think it was the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals basically said that her case can go forward. And I'm trying to find...
Yeah, I mean, if you're tenured, isn't that the whole point, that you can't be fired?
If you transgress the politics of the accepted truth, the one truth, you realize, this whole thing about religion is wokeism is an old religion made new. It is as intolerant as it used to be, when they were burning witches at the stake. Yeah. Right? It's intolerant of anyone that does not spout the dogma and pray at the altar and do what they're told and follow along. Critical thinking is not allowed. Frankly, thinking isn't allowed. Obedience is required.
So what circuit court was that?
And I'm looking for this. Here we go. So her name is... Patricia Griffin. It's a tenured professor fired less than a month after seeking the scientific evidence behind the public university's COVID-19 policies and challenging the legality of vaccines mandate. So it was thrown out initially. It was through the University of Maine system, Southern system. So it's the First Circuit district court. Again, you're going to go from the First Circuit, the Fourth Circuit did the same thing in North Carolina, but they ruled against this professor. So, but people are starting to fight back. You just have to question: is it too little, too late? Right? Because people go judge shopping. Right? We're going to file in this court, in this district, because we're going to get a favorable ruling. How much stuff makes it up to the Supreme Court anyway?
Well, and that's the thing is you just, when we see the takeover, we've talked about it on the show, when we see the takeover of the justice system, where we have judges and courts who go against the Constitution, go against the laws, and just try to make up their own thing.
But they don't think they're doing that. They don't. They look. They see law. There's two schools, right? If you go back to sort of the Antonin Scalia, right, the original school, Gorsuch, Thomas. But then there is the school of thought that says the Constitution is a living document, which means it is subject to interpretation. So I understand your interpretation, and I understand my interpretation. But they honestly, that's not their interpretation. So where are the lawgivers, right? Who's the one who comes down and said that this interpretation is wrong? All right, it does come down to the ballot box, right? And free and fair elections, which we're not going to get into here because you know what I think. But then when you look at the other, let's stay with Jay the Republican and his concept of masking versus unmasking, right? You now have the government who is trying to mask certain things and require, and by the way, this is where revolution is going to come from. There now has a public health recommendation that you should only have 2 drinks of alcohol a week. So they're trying to regulate,
no.
Oh, you didn't see that one? Yeah. The government has now come out with the, hang on, you're going to make me find my article.
Oh my God.
Prove to you that I'm not crazy. Here, okay, there you go.
Is this by the way, Bloomberg saying you can't have more than a 20-ounce soda in New York City or whatever it was?
President Biden's alcohol czar says America is going to be told by officials to have no more than 2 beers a week. No, so much for my shots of tequila. The director of National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, NIAAA, George Koob, told the Daily Mail on Thursday that the U.S. is going to follow Canada's footsteps on alcohol. You want to know, folks, you want to know where the revolt's coming from? Hey, Bud Light, you ain't seen nothing yet.
But
right?
they're trying to legalize marijuana in the House.
Of course.
Good.
Wait. So wait a minute. So wait a minute. So I was just in Montreal for the weekend. So, the People's Republic of Montreal, and I love Montreal. It's a great city with great people. And I'm a cigar smoker. I freely admit that. I could not, with the exception of 1 or 2 bars that allow it, I could not smoke a cigar within 100 feet of any business establishment. But there were people walking up and down St. Catharines smoking joints and smoking whatever those those, what do they call those things that they're the jewels or whatever they are. So, and it smelled like a pot factory. So now you could smoke weed. Schumer put forth that we should legalize nationally marijuana, but cigarette smoke, or in my case, cigar smoke. And now they're going to come after, look, they're coming after gas stoves, right? They came after exhaustive pizzerias in New York City. They're going after, but I'm telling you, you want to know where revolution's coming from? Limit people to 2 beers a week.
No, this is what they want you to smoke weed every day.
That's where revolution's coming from.
Okay, so they want you to smoke weed every day, so you won't lash out, you won't fight back, you won't do nothing. Beer makes you rowdy. Okay, that cigar.
I don't drink beer. Does it make you rowdy?
Makes you rowdy. Oh my God, Robert!
I thought it was a depressant.
I thought it was a depressant. My brain hurts.
Hey, so here we have to go to break, but here's what I would say. I think that they should limit. I think there should be no alcohol. We should bring back prohibition, because I think the country was run way better under organized crime than it is against Biden's crime family. And we're going to leave you folks with that thought, and we're going to break to make some money, and we will be right back. We are of the people. You can find us on Rumble. You can find me on Twitter at RBChernin. And
I am at Erica Reddick.
look us up. You'll be entertained.
That we guarantee.
Absolutely. She's never wrong.
Ever. Just ask my husband.
Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin with
Erica Reddick.
the lovely Erica Reddick.
Yeah.
So, Erica,
Yeah,
picking up where we left off, do you know what else the Biden administration wants to
God.
ban?
What now?
Come on. Give you three guesses.
Oh, my
bigger than a
God.
bread
What do
box.
they want to ban?
And it,
they
hangs on the ceiling.
Oh, ceiling fans. Ceiling
Ceiling
fans.
fan. Yeah. So, I mean, how much does this, does Biden's America want to reach into your house?
They also want to block the sun. What the
right.
Excuse my language.
Yeah, but that's okay. But WTF. But they want to block the sun. They want to ban alcohol.
Yes,
So let me see if I got this
ceiling
right.
fans.
They want to ban alcohol and ceiling fans, which to me those are related because don't you really want? I mean, so you're going to schwitz and be hot because you don't have a ceiling fan. There's not going to be enough electricity to run your air conditioner.
They want to ban air conditioners,
and you don't have gear to cool off. I would say these are not really smart
they want to
policies.
take all the joy and goodness out of our lives so that we really do end up like the book 1984. Everybody's going to be wearing the same brown jumpsuit and take
Orange.
the joy.
Orange.
Isn't it brown?
Orange.
I thought in 1984.
Well, you're wearing orange.
I know, but
You're wearing orange.
No, it's brown shirts are the bad guys.
Well, the brown shirts were Hitler's
Okay, I'm mixing
military
up.
wing. They were the
So
they
I'm
were the
mixing
brown
up
shirts.
actual bad guys with literary bad guys.
They were actual bad guys. But wait a minute. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Name for me in Biden's America. Name for me a blue city or a blue state that isn't a total freaking mess.
Oh, God.
Economically, law enforcement, environmentally. Find me one. And we know, look, the blue states. Name one. Name the blue cities.
Especially the blue cities. They're all messed up. All the cities with the highest murder rates, the highest unemployment, all the worst statistics are all blue cities. Now, some of them are in red states, so-called red states where they might have a Republican governor, but like Vermont has a Republican governor. That dude is not a Republican, okay?
But that's not a Republican state. That's still a blue state.
Is there
even wait. He's not even a rhino. He's not. Yeah, but wait a minute. In Vermont, is there actually even a Republican Party in Vermont?
No.
Really?
Not.
in name only, right? Republican, right? So, Bernie Sanders has successfully taken over the state of Vermont, and there are no. You want to talk about enemy territory? I was in Burlington the other day. It's starting to look like Portland.
It's not starting to look like they've got. So they already have. The downtown, so Burlington is the largest city. It's the Queen City. Church Street, the downtown.
Is that the Queen? Is that like the Queen of Beers?
It's similar. Very,
just kidding.
Very similar.
Lord Benjamin, you can bleep that if it's politically incorrect. It's okay.
The downtown is being gutted. They're putting another homeless encampment next to the high school where they are already having encounters with the students every day. It's just there's now shootings there. Okay, literally, Robert, we have a house here. We got back the other day. There was an armed robber on the loose. Every single Burlington police officer was in pursuit. The guy got away on a bike, then stole a boat.
You mean both of them? You mean both of them? You mean both of them?
Literally. and then the dude stole a boat. Okay, like there's people doing carjackings here now. Like what?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The guy steals a boat and they couldn't find him?
Oh, good golly. It's a whole thing. Dude.
Oh, so he doesn't know how to drive a boat. So wait a minute.
Point is,
right.
Point.
Blue
cities.
The point is, you have lies, damn lies, and facts. And they don't care about the lies or the damn lies. They care about the facts because, for instance, so DC, one of the council members says we don't have a crime crisis here.
What?
Right. So wait, just as an example,
in
hang
DC?
on. So Phil Mendelson, the chairman of the District of Columbia City Council, basically says, I know this belies the common belief, and when it comes to crime, how people feel about it, but there is no real crime crisis in D.C. This was in late March. Now, for perspective here, right, in D.C., since as through August, there is a 63% increase in robberies, a 27% increase in homicides, a 14% increase in sexual abuse, and there are no crime crisis in D.C.
What?
So when facts don't matter, and look, I know people buy an emotion and they justify on logic what they've already bought. I get that. I'm a salesman from, pots and pans and dishes door to door in my, teens and 20s. I get why people buy stuff, right? But when facts on that level don't matter, it's what you get what Jay the Republican said. You can mask stuff and say, oh, there is no border crisis. You can say that, oh, but Biden responded quickly to the Maui survivors, which is such a bunch of crap.
Yep.
Right? But so name me. So we know that D.C. is a blue city, that clearly things ain't going so well. I defy you.
Yeah.
I love you dearly. I defy you. Name for me a single blue city that's doing well.
I don't think I can.
I mean, aren't we singing? So we're singing the blues.
Oh my God!
Which, by the way, Lord Benjamin, I want that song, "Singing the Blues."
Oh my
Sammy
God,
Davis
we
Jr.
gotta play it. When we see the blue cities and the blue states, they call themselves sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. But then they can't handle the immigrant influx from, that's being
Sure they can. They send them. They send them somewhere else.
And so, it is really, my question to the general public is, when you see this happening, and we're talking to Vermonters all the time. We talk to people in Texas, no matter where we go, who don't like the way things are, but then they don't vote. And then they don't participate. And I don't know, how do we fix this other than electing people who are not psychos? This is all policy that's decided essentially by the voters, right? They've voted for this stuff, and then they complain about the way things are. So how do we fix it? What's the solution here?
La guillotine. La guillotine. I don't know that there is a solution. So you know how you just taught me something earlier in the show, that this whole thing about overpopulation of the world and mass being unhealthy, and then why you should want us all dying from COVID because that way we will depopulate the earth, and then there's no climate. I mean, I never made that connection. That is brilliant. But on a similar connection, right? How do you connect, right? How do you, how do you fix it? Because now we're talking about election integrity. Because on the one hand, you're saying you have to fix this at the ballot box, but now if you don't believe that there are free and fair elections, you are going to further disincentivize those people to vote. Now, look, I'm one of those people. There are people in the world who die for the right to vote in free and fair elections, right?
It's true.
But and by the way, if you're one of those people, at least historically, that have never voted, don't even talk to me. You can have a different opinion than me. You can be a flaming liberal, whatever you want to be, and I will meet you in the public square of debate, armed and ready, and let the critical thinking and the critical debate of ideas, let's see who wins. Because in a battle of wits, they're unarmed, in my opinion. Having said that, right? Having said that, there's no way now, because now you have people questioning, and I think rightfully so and justifiably so, because there's so many unanswered questions in the 2020 election as to, and now they're finding ballots that were, shipped and harvested. And, and again, you're not going to hear about this in the news, and then you're going to say, oh, well, you only saw it on Twitter. Well, Twitter or those kind of social media, you have to filter through it all. But those are the only unfiltered sources at this point, because everything else is filtered through the echo chamber of the politics of the station you're getting it. But if the American public doesn't believe that elections are free and fair, it will only depress the vote even more. And the only people that are going to come out and vote are the ideologues on both sides. And by the way, if only the ideological wings of let's call it the parties come out, the Democrats win, because for them it's about 40%, 50% of that party.
Yep.
For us, it's about 30%.
They're way more motivated. They're way more.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Because they know they can't win any other way. In free and fair elections, they can't win.
And there's a big disconnect too between, and this is how I heard it described, the disconnect between the people who take a shower to end their day versus the people who take a shower to begin their day. Right? So when you're
That's what Doug Burgum said, the governor of North Dakota, in the debate.
Loved that. I loved that, because it really is when you have the people who are the producers, the people who are out there working hard, feeding their families, running their businesses, they're like, I don't have time to stop at the ballot box. I don't have time to participate in these things because I'm busy, making the jobs.
But then you're arguing for mail-in ballots. Then you're arguing for mail-in ballots.
No, and that's the thing, right? And so then you have the folks who take the shower to begin their day, or the liberal elites. They can get time off from their jobs. They've got the time off, or the motivation, or the incentive to go vote and participate. And that's where that's why I get so frustrated sometimes by the normal average working American doesn't buy into this stuff, wants there to be police and wants there to be law and order, but they don't prioritize it. I get it. Look,
I agree with you mostly, but where I disagree with you is that I think historically those people who take showers at the end of the day, and by the way, I generally take one in the morning and in the evening, so I'm both of those guys. But just kidding, not every day, folks. People go, Robert, you stink. Take a shower. Right, never, wrong kind of stinking. But in any event, it's my politics that people don't like. Manishtana. But in any event, it's one of those things that I disagree with you, because I think the average American, those people who take showers at the end of the day, historically have wanted to vote, have taken the time to vote, and understood its significance and importance. It's in the modern era, let's call it from Obambi forward, right? And that's really unfair to call him that, because he's anything but a fawn or a doe. If anything, he's the Manchurian candidate, and this is his third term in office. Thank you very much. But these people want to vote, but now they don't think their vote matters. So why bother? And there is a malaise, and there is a sense of hopelessness that it doesn't matter what I do. And that's that whole red dot in a blue pond thing. They want people to be demotivated. They want people to, and I think when I say you're one of them, I know vote, but I mean, your concern is well placed. But when I say you're one of them, it's not that you don't vote. It's that you actually are feeling what they're putting out and accept it to be real. I do not. At the end of the day, I think it'll get worse before it gets better. But you're already starting to see people fight back in different ways. I hope it doesn't come to armed open conflict, but let's see what happens in 2024. Because I want to segue you to the post-debate polls. Have you seen them?
Oh, you know what? I have not.
So Trump is running away.
Lie.
Trump is now running away in the post-debate polls. A couple weeks ago.
Even more?
An
even bigger lead?
Bigger lead.
Really?
Yeah, hang on. I'll find that one for you too.
Yeah, that's what I've
Wall
been
Street-
so
Wall Street
focused
Journal.
on the house and for those of you listening, we're getting ready to sell our house in Burlington. There is too much crime here. These people are insane. We're making moves outside of the city.
Well, I can't quite find it, but I'm sure it's here somewhere. So basically, it's not it either. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, our favorite. Die.
DEI.
Die.
Divide, elite, and intolerance. Don't forget that's what it really means. Division, elitism, and intolerance. So I know we're segueing. I want to get back to this Trump poll thing.
Okay, tell me about the Trump poll.
But next time someone says, diversity, equity, and inclusion, folks, remember, it's worth repeating. Divide or division, elitism, and intolerance, because that's what it really means. So Trump has the support of like 61% of the Republican electorate. Wow. It's up like 11 or 12 points. And I am struggling to find this article, but I will. Here it is. There you go. Wall Street Journal, right, basically says that there's a dramatic change despite the emphasis that DeSantis and Southern candidates have. It's a poll from August 24th through the 30th. It's 1,500 Americans with a 2.5% margin of error. Quote, some 76% of Trump supporters say they are committed to him and won't change their mind. Right? Okay. But it's 61% of the Republican electorate who have said that they are voting for Trump regardless, and that's up 12 points.
Wow. So they were not impressed. The American people were not impressed with their pool of candidates from the first debate, sounds like.
I don't know if they're not impressed because, look, to be honest, I think that we had an incredible slate of candidates up there, and I like the talent pool, and I like a lot of them. And if someone could convince me that one of them could actually win the primary, there's several of them that I would support in the general. There's a couple of them I wouldn't, but that's not true. I'm anybody but Biden, but a couple that I just don't think could win the general, right? So the question then becomes, can anyone derail Trump? Because he's only gotten stronger. 4 indictments, and now they were trying to get him off the New Hampshire ballot, right?
Really?
Yeah, Corky Messner, who ran for Senate, filed suit to remove him from the ballot, citing the 14th Amendment to the Constitution because of insurrection. Even though he's been charged, it hasn't been proven. But, of course, he's guilty until proven innocent because he's Donald Trump, of course.
Obviously.
Right.
Obviously.
So I don't think anybody beats Trump in the primary except possibly Donald Trump.
The thing with Donald Trump is like all of the problems I feel like are baked into the cake, right? So, by the time the grab him by the, what video came out and they thought, oh, for sure, this will be the end. No, the average American wanted the giant orange middle finger. And so the brazen, brashes,
did you just say brashes? Is there such a word?
Is that? I think I just made that up. The brashiousness.
You're like my radio malaprop.
I
love that.
All of that was baked in, and the American people want that. And so the idea that you're going to show him being brash and like a strong New Yorker is somehow going to hurt him in the polls. I don't know why they keep trying the same play, thinking that's going to work.
Well, no, the play they're trying is they want Trump as the nominee because they think they can beat him again, and they want him limping into the debates. And by the way, folks, we have to go because we're getting the high sign. But you've heard it here. I'm going to tell you again. Joe Biden will not be the nominee. It's going to be Donald Trump versus Gavin Newsom.
Oh,
chew on that for a while, and we have a lot of this for the next show, so we got plenty of stuff to come back to. Erica, where can they reach us?
They can reach us at asicfund.org or coalitionforamerica.com. They can reach me on Twitter at Erica Reddick, and they can reach you
at RB Chernin. RB Chernin. And folks, do it because Erica said so.
Do it now.
And do it now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week.